Welcome to the part 3 of the Pitman Shorthand course. In this video we're going to have a look at vowels. So in Pitman Shorthand there are 12 vowels. So let's see how they look and sound. Now it is highly recommended that you focus more on the sound and less on the text so that you can better understand how these vowels are actually sounded and can later identify the correct vowel in any word. So our first vowel is sounded as ah. Ah as in pa. The next one is sounded as a as in may. The next one is sounded as e as in we. The next one is sounded as aw as in all. Next one is sounded as o as in go. The next one is sounded as oo as in to. The next one is sounded as a as in that. The next one is sounded as e as in pen. The next one is sounded as I as in is. The next one is sounded as aw as in not. The next one is sounded as as in much. Next and the final one is sounded as oo as in good. Now there's a special phrase for you that you can memorize so you can remember these vowels, and that phrase is pa may we all go to, that pen is not much good. Now these vowels are divided into two categories, long vowels and short vowels. The vowels that come in long vowels are pa may we all go to, and the vowels that come in short vowels are that pen is not much good. Now let's see how these vowels are represented. So long vowels are represented by a heavy dot and a heavy dash, while the short vowels are represented by a light dot and a light dash. So the long vowels pa may we are represented by a heavy dot and all go to are represented by a heavy dash, while the short vowels that pen is are represented by a light dot and not much good are represented by a light dash. Alright, so now let's look at the vowel places. So a vowel place is a place at which we put a vowel sign on a particular stroke or curve. So before looking at the vowel places for all the vowels individually, you first need to know that what these places are called and how are these places arranged. Now before starting, what I would like you to remember always is that the place of any vowel will be counted from the point where any particular stroke or a curve begins. Now to understand this statement, we're going to be making a stroke. Alright, so suppose if we make a stroke here, like this stroke. Alright, so now if you can just notice, we started making this stroke from this point. Alright, we started making this stroke from this point, then we moved to the downwards direction, and then we ended up making this stroke at this point. Alright, so as we started from this point, so this place will always be called the first place. Now I wrote the number 1 here because as you can see up here, this first place, this first number simply means the first place. So whenever I'll be writing the number 1, then it simply means the first place. And the second number simply means the second place. So whenever I'll be writing the number 2, then it simply means the second place. And this number 3 simply means the third place. So whenever I'll be writing the number 3, then it simply means the third place. So you have to keep this in your mind. Right, so as we started making this stroke from this point, from this place, so this is first place. Alright, this will be always the first place. And as this is the middle part of the stroke, so this will be the second place. Right, and this is the last part because this is the part where we ended up making this stroke, so this will be the third place. Alright, So once again, the point is that the point or position or place from where we start making any stroke or a curve, so that place will always be the first place. Alright, so once again, if we make this stroke again like this, so as you saw that we just made this stroke, and then in here also we started from this point. Alright, so again this will be the first place, this will be the second, and this will be the third place. Alright, so that's how you number these places on any stroke. Now these places are used to put the vowels. So for example, if we have a vowel here, a heavy dot, so as you already know that we use a heavy dot to represent our vowel a, as in pa, because as we studied before, so this is our a vowel, and we just made a heavy dot because we use this heavy dot to represent our a vowel as in pa. Suppose if we make another stroke here like this, and now we have to put the vowel on this stroke. So as we started making this stroke from this point, so we can put the vowel up here. Alright, now as we put the vowel here on the first place, so we will simply say that we just put the vowel on this stroke on the first place. Alright, because as we saw here that this is the first place, and here also we saw that this is the first place, so we will say that we just put the vowel on the first place. Now in the same way, if we have to put the vowel on the second place, so as we already know that this and this is the second place of on this stroke, so we will put the vowel up here. So now we will again say that we just put the vowel on the second place. Alright, now in the same way, now suppose we have to put the vowel on the third place, so we will put the vowel up here. So again we can say that we just put the vowel on the third place. Alright, so that's how you put the vowels on a stroke. Now if you look at this stroke again, so this was the right part, or you can say this was the one side of the stroke. Alright, because this stroke has two sides. If you make a stroke here again like this, then this is the one part, this is the one side of the stroke. Alright, and this is the another side of the stroke, or you can say this is the opposite side of the stroke. Alright, so here on this stroke we just made these three places, first place, second place, and the third place. So the same thing happens on the opposite side also. Alright, which means that on this opposite side, this place will be the first place, and this place will be the second place, and this place will be the third place. Alright, so you have to remember that these vowel places will be on the both sides. Alright, not on just one side. So in the same way, suppose now if we take a curve like this one, alright, so again you just saw that we started making this curve from this point. So again we will be calling this place always the first place, because we just started making the vowel from this position or this place, and in the same way this will be the second place and this will be the third place. Right, now this was on the one side, same on the opposite side, this will be the first place, this will be the second place, and this will be the third place. Right, now we can take another curve. Suppose we take a curve like this. Now this is a L consonant as we studied before. Now if you notice, we started from this point. Alright, so now we'll be numbering these places from this point. So this will be our first place, and this will be our second, and this will be our third. Same on the opposite side, this will be our first place, this will be the second place, and this will be the third place. So now suppose we take another stroke like this line stroke. So now this is the K character as we studied before. So we started making this K consonant or K stroke from this point. So we can say that this is our first place, this is our second place, and this is our third place. Same on the other side, this will be our first place, this will be our second place, and this will be our third place. Alright, so suppose we take another curve this time, like this curve. Alright, so as we studied before, this is a R curve. So we started making this curve from this point or from this place. So this will be always the first place, this will be the second place, as this is the middle part of the curve, and this will be the third place. Now same on the other side, this will be the first, this will be the second, and this will be the third place. Alright, so now finally let's take an example of one more stroke. So suppose we make this stroke, as this is the R stroke or R consonant as you studied before. So we started making this stroke from this point. So this will be the first place, this will be the second, and this will be the third. Same on the opposite side, this will be the first, this will be the second, and this will be the third. So as you saw that we just took few examples, and this is how these places of vowels actually work. Alright, so this vowel places works the same way on all the stroke and curve. Alright, which means that it will work on this stroke, and the line stroke, and this one, and the curves like this curve, or you can say this or this. Alright, so this placing system simply works the same way with all the curves and all the strokes. So now we will be looking at the vowel places for each vowel individually. But before starting, there's one more thing that I would like you to remember always, which is throughout this course, whenever I'll be talking about the vowels, I'll not be saying like vowel A as in pa, or vowel A as in may, or vowel E as in V. Instead of this, I'll be simply saying vowel pa, vowel may, or vowel V. Alright, so you have to keep this in your mind throughout this course. Okay, so our very first vowel is pa, so pa will be on the first place. Now it simply means that whenever you have to put the pa vowel on any stroke or on any curve, you will be always putting the pa vowel on the first place. You cannot put the pa vowel either on the second place or the third place. You always have to put the pa vowel on the first place. Now if you still don't understand this, then don't worry, because we'll be looking into it in detail shortly. So again, first is pa, pa will be on the first place, next is may will be on the second place, next is v will be on the third place, next is all will be on the first place, next is go will be on the second place, next is two will be on the third place, next is that will be on the first place, next is pen will be on the second place, next is will be on the third place, next is not will be on the first place, next is much will be on the second place, next and the final one is good, so good will be on the third place. So now let's look into it practically. Okay, so here we're gonna be taking the example of only P and M consonant, because if we'll take all the consonants, then this video will be too long. So we'll be taking just P and M consonant. Right, so first of all we have this pa vowel, so we use a heavy dot on the first place to represent our pa vowel. So we have this first of all P stroke, so we'll be simply putting the heavy dot on the first place on this stroke to represent our pa vowel, like this. Alright, so this was on the one side of this stroke. Now if we talk about the opposite side of this stroke, then we will be simply putting the heavy dot like this on the opposite side. Okay, so now we have this M curve, so in the same way on this M curve also we will be putting the heavy dot on the first place like this on the one side, and on the opposite side like this. So we're done with this pa vowel. Now we have this may vowel, so we again use a heavy dot on the second place this time to represent our may vowel on any stroke or on any curve. So first we have this P stroke, so we will be simply putting the heavy dot on the second place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, now we have this M curve, so the same way on this M curve also we will be putting the heavy dot on the second place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Okay, so now we have this V vowel, so we use a heavy dot on the third place this time to represent our V vowel on any stroke or on any curve. So first we have this P stroke, so we will put the heavy dot on the third place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Okay, so now we have this M curve, so in the same way we'll be putting the heavy dot on the third place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Okay, next we have this all vowel, so now we use a heavy dash on the first place to represent our all vowel. So we will put a heavy dash like this on the first place and on the opposite side like this. Alright, next we have this M curve, so again we will put the heavy dot on the first place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Next we have this go vowel, so we use a heavy dash again, but this time on the second place to represent our go vowel. So we will simply put the heavy dash on the second place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, now we have this curve, so again we will put the heavy dash on the second place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, so now we have this to vowel, so we use again a heavy dash, but this time on the third place. So the third place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Now on the curve the same way like this and like this. Okay, so next we have that, so now we use a light dot on the first place to represent our that vowel. So we will simply put a light dot on the first place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, now we have this M curve, so in the same way we will put the light dot on the first place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, next we have this pen, so we again use a light dot, but this time on the second place. So on the stroke like this, and on the opposite side like this. Now we have this curve, so on the second place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, now we have this is vowel, so we again use a light dot, but this time we put on the third place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Now the curve the same way, on the third place like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, now we have this not vowel, so we now use a light dash on the first place to represent our not vowel. So we will simply put the light dash on the first place to represent our not vowel like this, and on the opposite side like this. And now we have curve, so the same way like this, on the opposite side like this. Now we have this much vowel, so we use a light dash again, but this time on the second place. So like this and like this. Now the curve like this and like this. Now the next and the final one is good, so we again use a light dash, but this time on the third place to represent our good vowel. So on the stroke like this, on the opposite side like this, and on the curve like this, and on the opposite side like this. Alright, so that's how we put the vowels, keeping in mind the correct places of the vowels. Alright, so now we're going to have a look at before and after. So what is this before and after? Well, this before and after is a very small concept which is very easy to understand. So to understand this before and after, we will be making a stroke. So suppose if we make a stroke here like this one. So now as we all know that we have two sides in a stroke. One is this side and the other is this side. So this side of this stroke is before and this side of the stroke is after. As we can see here, this B simply means before, and as we can see here, this A simply means after. Alright, so this is our before and this is our after. Now suppose if we make another stroke like this, and now if I ask you to put a heavy dot on the second place before this stroke, so where will you put the heavy dot? Of course here. Alright, because this is our before, so that's why we put the vowel on this side, and this is our second place. So that's how you put the heavy dot before this stroke on the second place. Alright, so now suppose we take a curve here, like this curve, and now if I ask you to put a heavy dot on the first place after this curve, so where will you put the heavy dot? Of course here, because this is our before and this is our after. Alright, and this is our first place, so that's why we put the vowel, the heavy dot, over here. Alright, so now as you can see the before and after sides of all kinds of strokes and curves, so it is strongly recommended that you have a look at each one of them carefully. Okay, so I hope you have looked at each one of them carefully, and that's all for this part. See you in the next part.